G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So with the 2024 AFL draft recently finishing up, I thought it'd be a great time to release a draft related video. The past few years and even this year, there's been plenty of chatter and plenty of reminiscing about what is the best AFL draft class. I think 2001 is certainly one of the best and undoubtedly the best. But in today's video, I've decided to take it a step further and see what are the best AFL draft classes statistically. We're going to be going over a bunch of different factors and calculations to determine what is the very best. The draft classes we'll go over today is from 1990, that's when the AFL competition was introduced, all the way to 2014, because 2014 was the last draft class where at least 10 seasons was played, so enough of a sample size. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video, and let's get into it. So you are obviously wondering, how are we going to do these factors and calculations to determine what is the very best? We're going to be finding out through a point system I have created. As you can see on your screens right now, here are the criteria for the amount of points you can earn for each draft class. As said before, we'll go from the 1990 draft all the way to 2014, and when going through each class, we'll see how many players qualify for any of these bonuses. So it's pretty self-explanatory, you've probably made it out now since seeing it, but let's say you've played 50 to 99 games, you get 5 points, and that keeps on increasing by 5 points up until 350. Premiership players is 15. There are draft classes with a lot of them, but they do need recognition, so I felt like including them was necessary. Best and fairest and All-Australian do get 25 points. I feel like on an individual basis, they're a lot more valuable than premiership players because a lot of role players can be a premiership player. So best and fairest, All-Australian 25 points. And then the more exclusive awards, Coleman Medal is in the middle with 50 points, usually about 1 or 2 or none on average is a Coleman Medalist in each draft class. And then you've got the pure exclusive awards, Norm Smith Medal, Brownlow, and also the AFL Players Association MVP award, also known as the Lee Matthews Trophy. That's been an award since the 1980s, so definitely worth including. And just quickly, these cannot stack up. So let's say there's Patrick Cripps, for example. You wouldn't put 2 for Brownlow Medal. You just put 1. It's every single player that qualifies, not the amount you've won. So hopefully that makes all a lot of sense. And let's begin today's video, starting with 1990. Okay, so let's begin with 1990. So on your screens right now, you're currently seeing the table that we went over just before, and this draft class shows there are 14 players that have played 50 to 99 games, and you can make out the rest. Notable players to the left-hand side of your screens. This just gives a bit of context, knowing who was taken in a particular year, and a photo as well. So James Hird definitely was one of the best players of the 1990 draft. The total score is 1355, and there's 25 draft classes we're going over today, so it's 18th overall. And the sole Brownlow Norm Smith medalist from this draft class is, of course, James Hird. Now for 1991, the notable players here: Shane Crawford, Brownlow medalist; Darren Cresswell, fine stalwart of the Swans Footy Club; Ben Graham, if you're an NFL fan, you'd probably know him, of course, former Geelong player that moved across to the New York Jets; and also Jason Ball, two-time premiership player for West Coast and also the Swannies in 2005. However, past that though, it is actually the worst draft class from 1990 to 2014 with only a total score of 1,080. 1992, we saw some class plays here. Nathan Buckley, Mark Ricciuto, both Brownlow medalists; Matthew Richardson, a fine player for the Richmond Tigers; and Justin Lepich, now at Collingwood, of course, as the list manager, I am pretty sure. Have a look at this though, 19 players from 1992 were premiership players. Players like Damien Hardwick, Drew Banfield, Craig McRae, John Blakey, Nick Blakey's dad, of course. And was always going to be up there with the points with having 2 Brownlow medalists, so it's 2,060 the total score, the 7th best. 1993 now, Brad Johnson was definitely one of the star players from this draft class. Nigel Lappin, a fine player for Brisbane. Fraser Garrick was also taken this year, was a West Coast Eagle before he went across to the Saints and became a Coleman medalist. No players are able to get a Norm Smith medal, Brownlow, or an MVP award, however, so that does lower the score a little bit compared to the others, and it is a total score of 1,150, the 20th best. 1994 now, and as you can see, that green, beautiful font, 2,605. This is the second best draft class from the calculations we have introduced in this video today. But have a look at this. I mean, 30 players at least playing 50 games to 99. That is a huge amount. 5 players also 300 to 349 games. That is a pretty big number when you think about it. But have a look at these. 25 premiership players. That is a crazy number. 16 best and fairests and 16 All-Australians. Huge. Matthew Lloyd, obviously one of the star players taken this year. Then Jason Acumanis, Andrew McLeod, obviously was taken by the Dockers and then traded to the Crows that year. And Mickey O, what a gun he was for the Swans. But yeah, this was a stacked draft full of terrific players from the 2000s and late 90s, no doubt. So the second best. 1995 now, Ben Cousins was undoubtedly one of the best players taken in this year. He was the only player from this draft class to win a Brownlow medal and also get a Players Association MVP award, or Lee Matthews Trophy as the other name is called. 15 premiership players, so pretty deep there. 20 players that played at least 50 to 99 games. And I think we all know who that singular player is in the 350 plus game column. It is, of course, Brett Harvey. Total score roughly in the middle, 1735, the 11th best. 1996 now, this also was a very stacked draft class in terms of the range of talent. 27 premiership players, a huge number there. 16 best and fairest, 18 All-Australians, some star players taken, Warren Tredrea, Brendan Lade, Cameron Mooney as well, Byron Pickett. The Brownlow medalist from this year was Shane Woewodin. He did win it in 2000. Also 19 players that played at least 200 to 249 games. This was a draft class with just a high amount of depth of talent, no doubt. So the third best draft class, it was 1996. 1997 now, a pretty average draft class when looking at the numbers, the 16th best with a total score of 1,555. But this was a draft with some superstars because there was at least 2 Brownlow medalists here, Adam Goodes and Simon Black. How about that? And also one of the best defenders of probably maybe this century, you'd say. He'd certainly be up there, Matthew Scarlett, multiple All-Australian player, Chad Corns, great player for Port Adelaide. So it's a draft class that has probably some of the best players that we have seen the last 20, 30 years or so, but it just doesn't have the depth compared to the others, so hence why it is the 16th best. 1998 now, Lenny Hayes is one of the top draft picks from this year, and he's certainly in a notable players category, no doubt. Brilliant player for St Kilda, a Norm Smith medalist, so he is key to one of those Norm Smith medal categories. 15 premiership players, a pretty respectable number there. The singular 300 plus gamer is, of course, Jude Bolton for the Sydney Swans, but overall it is a pretty low quality draft in comparison to the others, so it is the 22nd best with a total score of 1,245. 1999 now, and when we do look at this one in retrospect, this was a draft class with just so much good tall and key position players. Matthew Pavlich, Corey Enright, Jonathan Brown, Dean Cox, one of the best ruckmans of all time. Even Darren Glass too. This guy was, I think, a 4 or 5-time All-Australian for the Eagles. Very underrated player. 2 Norm Smith medalists, so Ryan O'Keefe, he was taken late by the Swans, and Paul Chapman was taken with pick 31 by the Cats. 15 All-Australians, 18 premiership players. It is overall a solid draft when you look at the numbers and you look at the names. So the 5th best draft class with a total score of 2,155. We now enter the millennium with the 2000 AFL draft, and it started with a boom with Nick Riewoldt, certainly one of the best key forwards of the 21st century. And he's the player responsible for getting at least one player in this draft class that did win a Players Association MVP award. 19 premiership players, a lot of players here, 100 to 149 games, 22, that's a very big number. And also with 10 as well that played at least 200 to 249 games. Alan Didak, Kane Corn, Sean Burgoyne, there were a lot of quality players taken in 2000. It is a pretty average one though, overall, when looking at the numbers with the total score, 1575. 2001 now, and yeah, this one is pretty understandable. I think we all knew this one was easily going to be the highest scoring draft class. This one absolutely clears the rest with a total score of 3,195. This is just, wow. You look back at this and you think, what a draft class this is. 22 premiership players, 20 All-Australians, but what really bumps up the numbers, look at those exclusive awards. 5 Norm Smith medalists. 5 Brownlow medals, and 3 players did get themselves a Lee Matthews Trophy. Looking at the games one, it's pretty evenly spread out. There isn't necessarily many high numbers, but look, there's been 5 players that have played, or 6 players that have played at least 300 games in this draft class, 7 250 to 299, so it's just such a stacked draft class, this one. It was undoubtedly going to be the best one in this video today. 2002 now, and this one is a bit of a downgrade from the previous year. It is the 21st best draft out of the 25 we've gone over today, with a total score of 1,290. Still some class players taken though. Joe Watson was a father-son pick this year. Brendan Goddard was one of the highest picks. I think he was pick 1 this year. And Jared McVeigh, fine player for the Swans eventually. He was, I think, pick 5. And Maxwell, pretty sure he was taken late and eventually became the premiership captain for Collingwood. But no Coleman medalists, no Norm Smith Brownlow, Lee Matthews trophies winners. So this is why the score is fairly low. Average numbers when comparing to the others with premiership players, All-Australians, best and fairest. So it is the 21st best. 2003 now, and throughout the early to the mid-2000s, there are a few ordinary drafts. This was certainly one of the lower-ranked ones, 24th best, 1,115. At least the score does bump up a bit and doesn't become the worst one, given Adam Cooney did win the Brownlow medalist, so 100 points there. 7 premiership players, only 7 best and fairest, and only 6 All-Australians, a fairly low number there. But still some quality players taken, no doubt. Every draft class has brilliant players taken, but it is the 24th best. 2004 AFL draft is next up, and this is a draft class we always like to reminisce and think about. Probably one of the best draft hauls by a single club. Hawthorn, Buddy Franklin, Jared Rufford, Jordan Lewis, key players towards their three-peat. But when you look past, Eddie Betts, one of the best small forwards of this generation, there certainly is high-level talent looking at 2004, but numbers is a key part in today's video. It just doesn't have the depth compared to some of the top ones we have looked at so far. We've seen a bunch of 20s for premiership, best and fairest and All-Australians, but only 12 premiership players, still a good number, and 12 All-Australians. It is 19th overall, and there are no Brownlow medalists or Lee Matthews or Norm Smith medals from these categories, so it doesn't bump up the score really too much either. So it certainly is a great draft, but the numbers tell us it is the 19th best. 2005 now, and this was a draft class with some quality midfielders taken. Scott Pendlebury still playing to this day. 17 premiership players, a big number there, and we've got the, what should we call this, the triple-double. At least 10 premiership players, 10 best and fairest, and 10 All-Australians. That's pretty good there. The Brownlow medalists, Matt Produce, of course, Norm Smith medalist, Scott Pendlebury. The Cole medalist, Josh Kennedy, was taken by the Blues this year, then, of course, traded to the Eagles as part of the Chris Judd deal. So this one, roughly in the middle, 12th best with a total score of 1725. 2006 now, and this was a draft class. Certainly, when you look at the players, in retrospect, one of the better ones out of any draft class there has been. Joel Selwood, Jack Riewoldt, Tom Hawkins, Travis Boak, and there's certainly more than that. Robbie Gray was taken late by Port Adelaide this year. Bryce Gibbs was the first overall pick. Sam Jacobs in the rookie draft. Basher Hooley, Todd Goldstein, Shane Edwards for the Tigers. 3 players that have played at least 350 games, and also 3 players that have played at 300 to 349. So this is a draft class with a lot of games played. It is the 9th best, looking at the numbers, with 1775 being the total score. 2007 now, we have a look at the notable players, and I just want to bring this up. Patrick Dangerfield, Sirioli, and Alex Rance. Probably one of the best midfielders, small forwards, and key defenders of the last decade or last 15 years. Outstanding players there. It's the 10th best, 1740, so a top 10 draft class here. Almost the triple-double, but 9 All-Australians, but 12 premiership players and 12 best and fairest. 2 Brownlow medalists, one of them being Patrick Dangerfield and the other being Trent Cotchin. Really solid draft class, this one, the 10th best. 2008 now, and I love that photo, as you can see. That's still side bottom with probably one of the most ordinary looking trims we've seen, but Nick Naitanui, how about those beautiful dreadlocks? What a player he was for the Eagles. One of the notable players, of course. Dan Hanbury as well was a rising star. Recipient, Rory Sloane. Wanted to include him in because I just thought he was so underrated in his prime. What a player he was for the Crows. 14 premiership players, 11 All-Australians, 2 players that have played at least 300 games as well. So the 13th best, an average looking draft in comparison to the rest. 1665 being the total score. 2009 now, and this was a really good draft class looking back at it. Dustin Martin, Nat Fyfe, probably the 2 best players we've seen in the 21st century as midfielders. Dusty, we all know his credentials, but Nat Fyfe, geez, he was brutally good in his prime. And how about this? Max Gawn too, Dylan Grimes. Gawn, definitely one of the best ruckmans of all time. 2 Brownlow medalists, 2 player MVP recipients. Both of those players are, of course, Dusty and Nat Fyfe. Norm Smith medalist, 22 players with at least 50 games to 99, so a bit of depth there, and 17 premiership players as well, a pretty high number. This is the 8th best draft class with a total score of 1,885. 2010 now, and this is the 6th best draft class. Why, you ask? We'll have a look at those numbers, the bottom left. 26 premiership players came from 2010, 11 best and fairest, 14 All-Australians, and a really solid depth of the amount of games. 15, 11, 13, 14, and 10. This was a draft class with a lot of pre-selections like Jeremy Cameron for the Giants. Jeremy McGovern was taken in the rookie draft this year. Luke Parker was also a very late selection. And Basher Hooley, I know he was taken in 2006. We went over him earlier, but he was delisted, so he does count as this draft class because he was picked up by a new AFL club after being off a list. But a great draft class overall. Just so much depth, this one, the 2010 AFL draft. The 6th best it is. 2011 AFL draft now, and this was a big one, the fourth best when looking at the numbers from 1990 to 2014. A huge amount of games played. Have a look at this: 20, 11, 15, 13 in those categories. 15 premiership plays, 18 best and fairest. I'm pretty sure that is the highest number out of any draft class we've gone over today so far. That is a huge amount. And 18 All-Australians there, so there is the triple-double. 2 Brownlow medalists and 2 MVP recipients does bump up the score here. Both those players being Tom Mitchell and 𝐓𝐿𝐼 �NEIL. You can also see in that photo, 𝐲𝐶 𝐞 was another player taken. John Patton as well for the Giants too. So statistically, this is a big draft class, 2011, the fourth best. 2012 now, and this one is a bit of a lull when comparing to the past others we've recently gone over. This is the 20th best with 1305 being the total score. Still some quality plays taken in this draft class, looking at Jack Macrae, premiership player, Ollie Wines, a Brownlow medalist, Joe Danaher, now a premiership player, and Lachie Whitfield recently an All-Australian, and yeah, he's been a brilliant player and a halfback for the Giants. Nothing really to scream about this one. No double-digit premiership players, best and fairest recipients, or All-Australians. Jesse Hogan recently winning the Coleman Medal does give this draft class an extra 100 points. But as said before, nothing really to yell about this one. There have been certainly quality plays taken in this draft class, but it is the 20th best when looking at the numbers. 2013 now, and this was roughly an average-looking draft when looking at the whole draft class, being the 15th best, but have a look at some of those notable players. This is a draft containing some of the best current crop of players in the competition. Charlie Cameron, brilliant small forward. Zach Merrett, Patrick Cripps, Bontempelli. These are some of the best midfielders currently in the AFL. 11 All-Australians, 9 best and fairest, 9 premiership players. And you got to remember, a lot of these players in this draft class are still, you'd say, in their prime. So this could definitely accumulate a lot more points when looking at this one in the next 10 years. Bontempelli and Cripps are the 2 players responsible for the Lee Matthews Trophy recipients, and the 1 Brownlow medalist, of course, Patrick Cripps. So the 15th best, but this one certainly could get better. And the same can be said for 2014, with a lot of players still playing. This is the 17th best. I was considering not to include this one because, yes, this draft class is now 10 years ago, 10 seasons ago, but one of those years was COVID, so that was a pretty short year, but I've decided to include it anyway. So the drafts, the games average would be fairly low in comparison to a lot of historic and past draft classes, but still, I want to include this one because it has some pretty cool numbers. 23 players from this draft class were premiership players. That is a huge number, and at least 10 best and fairest recipients and All-Australian recipients too. But look at those notable players. Christian Petrarca, Harris Andrews was taken very late. Isaac Keaney, Academy player. 𝐸𝐿𝐼 Miller as well. Will definitely be a draft class that will continue to accumulate more and more points, but it is the 17th best. Okay, so now we've gone over every AFL draft class, and as you can see on your screens right now, here are the total rankings. So this is quite simply the title of the video, and here you are. This is the best AFL draft classes from 1990 to 2014, and having a look at the numbers. This is probably one of the best ways I could have thought up of when considering a statistic point of view, because I did include all the relevant awards that you want to judge when looking at a draft class, looking at the depth. This was a big one, the depth of a draft class. I feel like we don't usually think about it too much. We just look at the top grade players, but the depth of a draft class we certainly want to look at. But yeah, 2001, as you can see, wins it by 500 points just because of the amount of Brownlow medalists and Norm Smith medalists there was. But this was a very fun video to go over today and see what is statistically the best AFL draft classes, so there you go. But we are not done yet. Before we end this video today, we'll quickly go over some miscellaneous rankings. Whilst you have been watching this video, you've probably wondered, well, Riley, what does the draft class look like, or what do the draft classes look like when ranking only off premiership players or only off All-Australians? Well, I've decided to include this to have a look. So premiership players, as you can see, this is what the ladder looks like when judging the draft classes from only premiership players. So 1996 with 27, 2010 with 26, so quite a bit of a gulf in quality. Then you look at 2003 at the bottom with only 7. And best and fairest too. We always want to give love to best and fairest because it recognises a terrific year for your football club. This one is a lot more narrower when looking at the range. 18 being the highest with 2011, all the way down to 1998 with 5. And then having a look at the other two we'll go over today, here's what the All-Australians look like. 2001, the only one with 20 or more. The games average, so you can actually look at this one at the Draft Guru website. It's a fantastic website. This is what it looks like here. We decided to include a few draft classes we didn't actually go over today. 2016 being 18th. What else was there? 2017 being 25th with 50 games. But 2001, the depth of that draft class was huge, 72 games. In 2006, we did go over this one and talk about the amount of games there were. There were, I think, at least 3 players for 350 plus or something like that. It had 72 as the games average. So that is a huge number there. So yeah, feel free to pause and have a bit more of a detailed look. But I thought I'd include this just in case anybody was curious. But that is pretty much the end of today's video, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I think we can always pick and choose draft classes when looking at the top talent, but I really did enjoy making this video and seeing what statistically are the best draft classes. So feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you did come to enjoy today's video. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.